Today's guest is Eldor Mukhtorov. Welcome.
I come from a very humble background. My parents are not very rich. It doesn't sting when you say it, it only stings when I say it.
Oh, I thought you got into English because of Eminem or something.
They say, how did you reach this level? And I said, songs and movies.
What would you say about
chasing
there are
billions? A couple of, he has nothing to lose. He has cancer, he has absolutely nothing to lose, and he doesn't fear anyone.
At times criticizing my writing, and it really pushed me to write better.
Don't care about what people say.
Right. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would that be?
One word, just like Jim.
What's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Be disciplined.
Assalomu alaykum barchaga. Mana bugun bizning BM Talks loyihamizning 4-soni va bugungi mehmonimiz juda bir kutilmagan, meni o'zim bilan anchadan beri ishlab kelayotgan hamkasbim. Ular tanishtirishdan oldin ozgina bir ikkita o'sha ma'lumotlar berib o'tishim kerak. Oldingi podkastlarda ham, oldingi chiqishlarimda ham bu haqida ko'p gapirganman. Mana o'sha boksda va shaxmatda sekundant degan tushuncha bor. Ingliz tilida buni second deyiladi. Bu odam siz o'sha diling o'sha sportchi bilan shug'ullanadi, kamchiliklarni to'g'rilashga yordam beradi, bir o'sha oldiga qo'ygan maqsadga erishishga bir yordam beradi. Kerak o'z hissasini qo'shib, feedback berib, IELTS olamida mana o'sha 9 olishda bosib o'tgan yo'limning oxirgi qismlaridan birida aynan shu odam bilan ishlashni boshlaganman. Birgalikda onlayn marafonlar o'tkazganmiz. Shuning uchun men ko'proq mana IELTSda men o'zimni second'im deb, ya'ni sekundandim deb ko'plab haligi oldingi chiqishlarimda aytib o'tganman. Demak, without further ado, today's guest is Eldor Mukhtorov. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Hello everyone.
Eldor o'zi ko'p ham bu paytgacha publicga chiqish qilmagan. Buni bugungi mana xudo xolasa suhbatimizda bilib olasizlar, nima uchun bunaqaligini. Ko'proq o'sha public ayda bo'lishi unchalik ham yoqtirmaydi, lekin harakat qilamiz bugun nimadirlar. Chunki this guy is full of gems and different, deep knowledge about certain things, life philosophy. And I want to try to get these things out of him, hopefully by asking the right questions. And yeah, today we're going to mix up the language. So we'll probably use both Uzbek and English because most of the time when we speak, we usually use English.
Yeah.
We have a lot of things in common, and we're going to be talking about those things, hopefully, back to back. But before we get into those discussions, let's get this podcast started by introducing you, right? So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. I'm originally from Fergana. I moved to Tashkent when I was 18 for university. I studied at World Languages University and Westminster International University. And for the last 10 plus years, I think, I've been working as an English teacher and IELTS instructor. And for the last, 4 or 5 years, I've been working in and with IELTS ZONE.
Yeah. Haqiqatda men ham ancha oldin eshitganman siz haqingizda, Eldor Mukhtorov deb haligilarda diskussionlarda, chatlarda o'quvchilaringiz yozardi. Misol uchun 8,5 o'sha paytlarda 8,5 olgan o'qituvchilar kam edi, 2017-2018-yillarda. O'sha paytlarda IELTS haqida gap ketsa, IELTS instruktorlar haqida gap ketsa, siz ham nomingiz tilga olinardi. O'shanda eshitganman. Keyinchalik mana birinchi menimcha onlayn gaplashishni boshlaganmiz, haligi fikr almashib, boshqa ko'p misol uchun o'sha shaxmat haqida men gapirsam yoki Eminem haqida gapirsam, kommentariyalarda aktiv qatnashardiz, o'sha orqali gaplashib boshlaganmiz. Mana hozirgacha juda ko'pchilik Eldor desa, odamlar ikki xil Eldor, chunki boshqa Eldor Sattorov ham bor, boshqa IELTS instruktor ham bor, 8,5 olgan bola, zo'r bola. Xudo xolasa keyingi shoularda Eldor Sattorovda ham, u ham biz o'zimizda generationdan IELTS instructor. He's one of those very
humble.
One of the pioneers.
Pioneers.
One of the pioneers of this field, and he's very humble.
Yeah.
Down to earth guy. So every time your name is mentioned, some people might assume that we're talking about the other Eldor. But finally, hopefully today, nima deydi, what's the expression? Where haligi sizni yuzingizga olib chiqyapmiz publikka, shu Eldor deganda, demak mana sizni ham ko'pchilik endi Eldor Mukhtorov asli qanaqa inson, o'sha kirib borishga harakat qilamiz. Xudo xolisa bu asosan 3 xil ligida men gaplashmoqchiman bugun siz bilan. Bu IELTS haqida emas, chunki IELTS haqida juda ko'p boshqa podkastlarda gaplashildi. Bugun ko'proq demak o'sha o'zimizning qiziqishlarimizdan kelib chiqib, o'zimizga common bo'lgan narsalarni gaplashamiz. We're going to put a face, maybe? Is that the expression? We're going to put a face on the name, or from the name to the name? Well, I don't know. Yeah. So we'll correct that part. But that's what we're going to do. So, again, you already mentioned very little about yourself. From Fergana, studied at, went to World Language University and WIUT. Okay, so how did you, when did you decide to become an English language teacher or ESL teacher and IELTS instructor?
I think when I was end of 8th grade, beginning of 9th grade. So back then I was studying with this teacher from my hometown, and I come from a very humble background. My parents are not very rich, and I attended these courses for a few months, and then unfortunately my parents couldn't pay for those courses. And I stopped going, and because I was a good student, my teacher called me and said, hey, what's going on? And I said, yeah, my parents cannot pay. And he actually offered to teach me for free. And I said, yeah, I can't do that. It's I don't know, was it pride or conscience, whatever. I just didn't want to say yes. But he said, yeah, okay, if it's the, pride thing, we can organize it so that you teach these newcomers. You can teach, MSR.
As a way of paying it back.
Yeah. The beginner level stuff, and then I will teach you. And I said, yeah, okay, that's a good idea. And once I started teaching, I realized that I was good at it, and I liked it, and you get a certain level of kind of satisfaction when you see that you are contributing to someone's growth, I guess.
Right.
And that feeling, I liked that feeling. So yeah, I've been, trying to hold on to that feeling ever since.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great story. That's a great, I never knew that story, so we never talked about it, I guess. But going into teaching because of that, proposal.
Yeah, it was a totally random thing. Just my starting to learn English.
Right.
We were really close with our next door neighbor, and their children, I used to call them sister,
Right.
And this is a small rural neighborhood, so everyone is so close.
Yeah.
And when she got married, I started asking my mom, who did she marry? And then my mom said, yeah, this is a English teacher, and he's really good. He's been to several countries abroad. And I said, wow. And I got impressed, and I said, I want to go study. That's
what I want to be, right?
No, I just... I said, I want to go study English, right? And then that's how it is, and how it started, and rest is history.
Would you say that was she was your first crush, maybe?
No, she was way older than me.
Oh, okay.
She wasn't my crush, but it's just
someone that you maybe.
Yeah, we were just close. She was like my own sister,
Right.
and I was just curious, like who did she marry? And then they said this guy, and I said okay.
Oh, I thought you got into English because of Eminem or something.
No,
because that was the story that we talked about.
No, it was way before I was introduced to Eminem. I was introduced to Eminem after I came to Tashkent.
Right.
Yeah. That's a whole...
Probably you started taking English more seriously because of this Eminem song that you wanted to maybe. Was it that?
Yeah, kind of.
What song was that?
I first started with Not Afraid.
Okay.
It was and I liked it, so I wanted to learn it by heart. And it took me like 2 months.
Right.
And after that, I got into it, and I moved to other songs like "Lose Yourself" and "Mockingbird." Older songs. Yeah, and I became a huge fan.
Yeah, ever since, right? Yeah. So I actually want to talk about Eminem more with you in this first part of the podcast, because that's what we've been, discussing most of the time, and we tend to kind of draw parallels from what we hear and try to apply those things, maybe certain lyrics, to our lives. And this is because every time we talk, there's always a line from a song, from an Eminem song, that you can identify yourself with, right? Like you can see yourself again reflecting on that. So let's talk about that particular. What would you say your favorite Eminem song is at the moment? I understand that it kind of goes, right, kind of changes.
Yeah. My all-time favorite is "Beautiful," because it's
from Relapse.
Yeah, Relapse. It's a motivational song. It's about, basically self-appreciation.
Right.
But nowadays, I would say it's more in his recovery albums. There are a couple of songs. One is "Going Through Changes," and second is
Talking to Myself.
Talking to Myself, yeah.
Right.
Those two songs, I'm listening to them on repeat these days.
Right. These are really underrated songs, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
most people, even big Eminem fans, don't really. They are familiar with the song, but they don't really know.
They don't really listen to it. Yeah. So, what would you say Eminem's biggest maybe skill is? Like, what makes Eminem Eminem?
I think it's one skill. It's difficult because it has so many. Like storytelling is the most important thing. I guess, like when you listen to one of his songs, like I was telling you earlier, this talking to myself is a great example of storytelling. How he feels really down on his luck, and then he kind of realizes that everything depends on him, and then he kind of pushes himself up. And
you were breaking down right, different verses. Like remind
so you have 3 verses, and the first verses he's kind of pitying himself. He's lost. He's pitying himself. In the second verse, he realizes that all of this depends on himself. And then in the third verse, he tried hard, and he's now successful, and he's back. And that's a great example of storytelling. That the flow, and also this another thing he does really well. And I think he's the best at is lyricism, like working with words, wordplay, choosing the right words. Like there are these stories of I'm not sure if it's true or not, like him sitting in his room surrounded by dictionaries and just going through the dictionary and learning words.
Yeah, that's from MGK, this, right? Like cooped up in his room reading dictionaries. Yeah, I think it's true.
It might be true. Yeah.
I know that he actually has his favorite dictionary is Oxford, and he just memorized these words from A to Z, basically.
Yeah.
Just to have those words at his disposal.
Yeah.
Right?
I think like words are if being a rapper is being a soldier, words are your bullets, right? Like,
right. The weaponry. So
the more you have, the better.
Right. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why we're drawn to Eminem songs, because of our passion to language.
Yeah.
Because our passion to
Definitely.
English. I try to understand why Eminem is bigger globally. He's a global icon. And probably has something to do with English language, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you talk to someone from USA, let's say, who is a big rap fan, they wouldn't necessarily put Eminem on top.
Yeah, exactly.
They would say maybe other rappers like Biggie, Jay-Z, and Tupac and others. But I think the reason why Eminem is more popular globally is, first of all, I wouldn't say he uses like better language, but I think he uses more kind of appropriate language for learners.
Yeah.
It's easier to understand the words, and another thing is he, I think, enunciates the words better.
Right. So
clear.
If you're learning the language, when you start, that was one of the things, like with the older generation, IELTS instructors, or maybe someone who's in this field, English teaching. Whenever I talk to somebody, and if their speaking is really good, usually when you start asking these questions, turns out they've been listening to Eminem, right, for a while. So that's, Eminem may not even realize his impact, not just in terms of culture and art and music, but language as well. And I think he does realize that he calls himself a modern day Shakespeare. So but for ESL learners, he's been one of the most influential rappers, or the artists, let's say, right? Singers of all time, right? So, but I wouldn't say, I would say, like, listening to Eminem and trying to make sense of his lyrics is actually hard work.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
Right? Like, you have to put in the
hours.
I wouldn't say hours, but effort, listening to his songs maybe back to back. And then we have these now reaction videos that you can watch on YouTube, and then some of these self-claiming experts try to break down Eminem songs, and
some of them are good.
Some of them are really good. Some of them, some of these experts, they usually miss certain lines because Eminem makes a lot of references, like to the things, maybe cultural. What would you say he makes reference? But like, what are probably the biggest events happening, right?
Happening in the moment of writing that song, and also he makes a lot of references to his own life, to people in his life. Right.
Yes, storytelling is definitely one of his biggest skills, I would say. And one of the songs that I think, there's another person that this Oybek, my friend, he and I talk about Eminem all the time as well. And one of the songs that he mentioned was a great example of storytelling, was the song Bad Guy. Bad Guy is I think it's from 2013 album, Marshall Mathers LP 2. He talks about it's basically continuation of his all-time classic Stan, and now the main character in the song is Stan's brother, who shares the same initials with Eminem. What was do you remember? How familiar are you with the song that I'm talking about?
I'm not really familiar with Bad Guy, but I know.
But like
Stan?
the way he describes it, because like Stan, yeah, let's talk about Stan. Let's just go back and talk about Stan, because I'm sure you are a big fan of Stan, the song. His storytelling and like basically when you listen to Stan and the first two verses, I think it's coming out of Stan's words, right? Basically,
I think 3, maybe.
First 3.
First 2 or 3.
Probably first. I thought it was first 2.
Okay.
Right. So, and way back when I was listening to this song, you don't even realize that it was Eminem singing. You know, it's like in your head, it's the other guy.
Another guy, yes.
Yeah, it's Stan singing. That's how good the song is, and that's how good Eminem is.
Yeah.
And emotions and everything, you know, like.
And you can clearly, when you listen to Stan, you can clearly see the progression of that guy's, you know, anger and frustration.
Yeah.
Like slowly, the first verse, he's okay. Yeah, I understand. You know, you're busy. You know, maybe I wrote the address not very well, or whatever. And then the second, third, he's getting progressively more angry.
He grows more angry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you know that Stan was added to dictionary because of that song?
Yeah, now it's like a Stan is it's very widely used as a like noun and
obsessed
a verb.
Fan,
yeah, obsessed fan. Like they say I stan this person.
It's used not only as a noun but also as a verb as well. So that's funny. Yeah. And yeah, Eminem is not the only rapper who contributed to English language, I guess, in a way. I think some of the words from, you know, I think Nas songs also were added to English language dictionary. So that's, it's a huge thing. That's a huge compliment, I think, to the artist.
Especially when you consider the fact that it's like rap and hip hop is such a kind of a fringe part of the language, like linguists wouldn't really consider
looked down on. Right?
It's frowned upon.
Right.
But still,
even then, they're kind of making it.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So storytelling, basically, he talks about his own life. I think that's one of the biggest things that he does.
I think that's where the passion comes from, right? Like when you experience those things. And you can really like you may like the song, and if you wanna sing it, you can't sing it with the same level of passion because you haven't gone through that yourself. Maybe some parts resonate with you, but not the whole story. So I think that's why.
True. Yeah.
I think that's why he says in I think in Not Afraid he says you can read my lyrics but you cannot get the sting out of them.
Right. Yeah. Because it doesn't sting. Right.
It doesn't sting when you say it. It only stings when I say it.
Right. Right.
Because
and it's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Like Not Afraid is probably one of the next to Lose Yourself, one of the most maybe cited songs, one of the most, I don't know, songs that have been sang along by fans out there.
Yeah.
I think I did one of these things. That was this. I was working for this IT company, Data Science, back in 2011, 12, when this was a new album, I think, and there was this talent show for this New Year party, and they asked everyone if they could do anything, and I said, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and sing one of the Eminem songs, and everyone assumed it was Lose Yourself that I was gonna do, but no, I said no, I'm gonna do Not Afraid because it was one of the biggest songs around that time.
In one of the places I worked, we also did this with a girl who had a nice voice. So we did Love the Way You Lie.
Okay. Yeah.
I did that.
It's from the same album. It's from the same album. Recovery was one of his biggest albums, I think, to this date.
Recovery was recovery in multiple senses of the word.
Yeah, he recovered.
He recovered from his
relapse,
drug addiction and relapse, and he recovered his reputation as a rapper.
his career can be divided into different phases, so to speak, right? Stages. He's not currently at the top. Like he's way past his prime, but some of the most recent albums that he put out, like it was back in what, like 4 years ago? What was his latest album? Music to be Murdered By.
Side
B.
Yes,
he put it out
3 years ago.
He put it out in 2020 or 2021.
21, I think 21.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Still 3 years ago. That's a long time though, right? And I've been waiting for this new album because what Eminem is doing, what he has been doing lately is that he's dropping a surprise album, right? Yeah. Every time now he drops an album, it's like surprise, never mentioned, but he still breaks those sales every time he does that. He drops an album, and I'm subscribed. I'm a huge Eminem fan, so I follow him on Twitter, one of the social media platforms, and every time I get a new notification from Eminem, Marshall Mathers, I'm excited about this album, but he's only talking about his he's a huge football fan, like American football fan. Lions, I think he's a big fan of Lions, so he's always talking about that, or he's promoting this Mom Spaghetti restaurant or something in Detroit, or he's promoting this merchandise that he has. So it never talks about this new album. There's no mention of new album, but every time I get this notification, I get excited. So, yeah. We talked about your favorite song. Maybe a line from one of the Eminem songs that you identify with, like that resonates with, or that speaks to you. What would that be? I
mean...
It's hard to pick though.
It's really hard to pick. Like here's the thing. I have maybe 2 songs from Eminem for any kind of scenario in life. Like when I'm depressed, I listen to these 2 songs. When I'm happy, I listen to these 2 songs. And
is that the same 2 songs?
No.
Oh, okay.
Different. For
okay.
Every situation, I have different Eminem songs.
Okay.
That's because of his versatility, I guess. I think, like I said, my all-time favorite is Beautiful, and he says, "Don't let him say you ain't beautiful," right?
Right.
It's not necessarily the looks, but
when he says beautiful, it's like
skill,
talented.
Don't let people tell you that you're not good enough.
Right, good enough is a good word.
Yeah. Because I don't want to say the other part. Right. But yeah.
We're not here. We're talking about Eminem because that's what we have. Again, we're passionate about. But disclaimer: we're not really saying that you have to listen to Eminem to get better at English. Nowadays, you have different materials, right? You have YouTube, so you can expose yourself. But when we were growing up, Eminem was the most important part of our language journey.
Yes.
But you don't have to go through the same thing. You don't have to listen to Eminem just because you want to get better.
I think we can still extract some kind of a rule from this. Mm-hmm. So the way Eminem has been so significant in our like you said, language journey, right? Mm-hmm. The reason is we were both passionate about his songs, his art, right? What I would say is, if you want to turn it into a rule, do something maybe that you're passionate about, whatever it is. Is it reading a book, watching a movie, watching YouTube videos?
As long as you're passioned about this.
As long as you're passionate about it, like how that, like this is how I tell this story to all of my students. Like usually when I start a new group, right, students come, they are kind of excited to see this 8.5 like kind of instructor, whatever, and then they say, "How did you reach this level?" And I said, songs and movies. And they are immediately excited. Yeah, can you recommend me a movie? Say, yeah. I usually say Shawshank Redemption. Go watch Shawshank Redemption. And then next time they come back and I said, "Teacher, I watched Shawshank Redemption." And I have these scenes from the movies that I like, and I tell them, did you understand this part? Did you pay attention to this part? They're like, no. And I'm like, what did you do? And they go home, they just
rewatch.
Watch the movie, just sit there, just, I don't know, eating snacks and just watch the movie. Don't pause when they don't understand. Right. Don't look up the words when they don't understand. And they just watch the movie and they think that they somehow learn something.
Yeah.
And I say, no, that's not how it works, right? The way Eminem helped us was when you listen to a song that you like and you don't understand a certain part, you go to the dictionary, you find the word you try to understand, and that's because you're passionate about it. It kind of gets stuck in your head.
Exactly.
And that's how you progress, right? Whatever you want to do, you want to read a book, listen to songs, watch movies, watch TV shows, right? I think if you care enough about a movie or TV show, let's say you watch a comedy, right? This is what happened when I was watching like Big Bang Theory, for example. They would make these jokes, and you know that it's a joke because you have this background laughter.
Yeah, laugh track.
But you don't understand the joke. So what I would do is sit there, look at the subtitles, go and research that thing. And Big Bang Theory is scientific. I research the scientific things.
You have to understand the physics.
I understand. And then it takes me like, 10 minutes to get this one joke. But after I get it, I laugh. And then that's how it kind of gets, I don't know, maybe drilled into my head, gets stuck in my head.
Yeah.
And then I don't forget. And that's why I still kind of reference, and people are like, how do you remember that? And I'm
right, because you watched it so many times, I guess.
So many times on repeat until I got the thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's how you do it. That's why you have to be passionate, or you have to at least like what you are.
So now we've kind of switched from Eminem to TV shows. So I just want to make the point of, Big Bang Theory is one of the best, I think, sitcoms ever made, I guess. But it's, when I'm recommending students, right, like I usually talk about Friends more than Big Bang Theory, because I think it kind of speaks to more people out there. It's lighter in terms of English, right?
Yes.
You still need to understand. You still need to have a good grasp of the language to be able to make sense of the jokes that's from Friends. But it's lighter. I think it's for the general public, whereas Big Bang Theory is more for the I wouldn't say nerds, but
you can say nerds. Nerd culture is spreading, so nerd is not a derogatory term anymore.
Okay. Okay. But so Friends, but I realized that you haven't really watched, you're not a big Friends fan, right?
I think I watched the first season way back.
But it's a very slow season. So one of the reasons I think I got hooked to the Friends show is that I started watching it from season 6 for some reason, because that was the only season that was on my computer. I got from a friend or something, but back then we didn't have streaming like services like Netflix, so I was watching it. So you would just get your flash stick, and then you get the show, right? So for some reason, season 6 was the only season available on my computer, on my hard disk. So I started watching it, and I liked it so much that I had to go back and start watching the show from season 1. Then I realized, season 1 wasn't as maybe funny as the rest of the season. So what I like about Friends is that they really peaked toward the end of the show. Like the prime of the show, it gets funnier and funnier every season.
It's the opposite for Big Bang Theory. After season 6, you don't really have to watch the show. It's like it's not funny.
Right. So they probably dragged it for too long, I guess. And that's the same for How I Met Your Mother as well.
Yes.
They just didn't really find that sweet spot to end the show. At its peak.
And the most frustrating things about How I Met Your Mother was who he ends up with at the end, and it's like
they forced it. I think they forced it on the audience, right?
Right? Did I watch like 8-9 seasons for this?
Just for this. It could have ended in like season 2 or something. Yeah.
I think that's the second most disappointing ending after Game of Thrones.
Oh, I've never watched this Game of Thrones thing.
It was bad, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, it was like the first 6 seasons are works of art.
Yeah.
7 is okay. 8 is just.
So I think one of the biggest TV shows that's mentioned next to the Game of Thrones is Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Historically, they say it's one of the best TV shows ever
made. It
is
the best, I think, in terms of like audience rating, how many people like it, and like everything. In terms of everything, I think it's the best TV show.
You watched the show?
Yeah,
right?
I watched the show. Yes.
Yeah. How long did you spend completing the show? Like, how much time did it take you to finish the whole thing?
It took me less than a month.
Wow.
Because I was hooked.
Like, they're like 5 seasons, right?
Yeah, I was hooked. It was like, I don't know. I can't really describe it with words.
But what did you like most about the show? What was the key takeaway for you?
The key takeaway, like, it's the number one thing, and this is any Breaking Bad fan will tell you, is character development of this Walter White.
Yeah.
The main, he's just a simple high school chemistry teacher, and because of the life circumstances, he turns into kind of a drug dealer, and then drug lord. Towards the end.
He basically rules an empire, right?
Empire.
Yeah. His own words.
Yeah. I think you can interpret it in many ways. You can call it like a fall of a man, but for me it was more like there's this saying, you don't know how strong or how brave you are until being strong or being brave is your only option.
Wow. Yeah.
And this guy, just a simple, humble guy who
gets mocked all the time, right?
And he's okay with all of that.
It's like all in social situations with his family, right? He's the laughing stock. Like he's.
Yes. Yeah. And he's okay with all of that because he's happy with his wife, with his kid. He has a nice life. And then I think,
what was the turning point? Like,
he got cancer.
Yeah, he gets cancer.
He gets cancer, and he says, "Yeah, this is too much."
Right.
And he breaks.
He breaks bad.
Breaks bad.
I think that one of the turning scenes the scenes that kind of reveals that he's becoming a bad guy is that when I say bad guy, I don't mean it like again in the true sense of the word, like bad guy is like a tough guy, is that when that happens to his son, like when his son gets into trouble in
a clothes shop.
Yeah.
And then
he goes over there. He would never have the, what do I put it like nicely? Courage is a nice. I was gonna go for another word, but okay. That he would never have the courage to stand up for his son, right? Yeah. In that kind of situation ever before. But it was the turning point.
I think I'm gonna make a reference to another my favorite show of all time, Billions, and in one point, one of the main characters says, who is more dangerous than a person with unlimited resources? Person who has nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Right? And that's who he is in that moment, in that clothes shop. Clothes shop.
Yeah.
He has nothing to lose. He has cancer. He has like absolutely nothing to lose, and he doesn't fear anyone.
Right.
And
doesn't fear anyone anymore.
Anyone anymore. He doesn't fear anything. He doesn't fear the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So he does whatever he wants, and that's what life does to a person, and you can take away any lesson that you want. Maybe you can say maybe you shouldn't be that timid.
Right.
Is the word, I guess. That you shouldn't be that timid in life. You should be a little bit more aggressive.
Right.
Because in the end, when people around you and when people and the system and the life pushes you around too much, you're gonna break eventually.
At some point, yeah.
Yeah, and I think one way to avoid it is to let out some of this aggression little by little. Maybe is a takeaway. I don't know, but for me, yes. How a man can turn from a sheep to a wolf. That's the main thing. That's the attraction.
Yeah, character development.
Yeah.
Another, I think, a key lesson from the show was, I think, the consequence, like basically facing the consequence of your actions.
Yeah.
He does it to provide for his family because he's, dying man, doesn't have anything to leave behind, and then he just starts this thing to make some money, I guess. But there comes a point in his in the show that now he's made so much money he could quit anytime he wants, but he just doesn't want to quit anymore because he's in that industry. He's the biggest.
Yeah.
One of the best lines from the show is like this knock thing, like knocking on the door. Who's right? Like,
yeah, I am the danger.
I am the danger. I'm the guy who's knocking. Right? I'm the one who's knocking. So this is when you realize that he's become so hooked that he doesn't even care about money anymore.
Yeah,
he isn't really doing
that's
it.
When, like, up until that point, the audience might think, yeah, he's still a good guy.
Right.
Who is
Yeah.
doing the bad thing for his family,
Right.
doing right to do good, basically, right? But at that point, you will realize, no, this is a point of no return.
Right.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. Exactly.
This is
so you can't really go back now. Like,
no.
Yeah.
This is now he has become
The villain.
The villain. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he kind of redeems himself at the end.
Yeah.
He saves the kid.
Yeah.
So.
You mentioned billions, and I did get into the show. I did start watching the first season. I liked it. I think I'm gonna go back and watch it. At some point. Maybe I'm taking a break now. But it's very intense. Yeah. Especially great if you are running a business. I think you have to make these decisions, right? It's a great show to maybe learn, and also it's something that they do. I think would you draw that? Like would you say that there is this show Billions is somehow related to chess in a way? What would you say about chess?
Yeah, there
and
are
Billions?
a couple of chess moments, because one of the main characters used to be a professional, almost
pro, like when he was
yeah.
a club player probably,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, he was on his track to becoming a grandmaster.
Oh, okay.
And he when he strategizes, he always thinks of chess moves. And there's in one of the later seasons,
yeah.
you have Hikaru Nakamura
Making a cameo, yeah.
appearing there. So yeah, there's a lot of connection between
Chess references.
There's a lot of chess references. Yeah,
That's what I liked about that show in particular.
Yeah.
And did you know that they first wanted to have Magnus on the show?
Yeah. Magnus refused, and then Hikaru said yes. Yeah.
Hikaru, yeah. I think Hikaru is better suited just because he's American. He's a native speaker. I think Magnus is one of the biggest, chess players, one of the greatest chess players ever in the world. But chess is another thing that I think I wanted to talk about today, because, again, chess is one of those topics that we have in common. We talk endlessly, our end. Is that the expression? on our end.
4 hours on end?
Yeah, 4 hours on end. Yeah, so we talk about chess all the time. I know that you're into other games as well, especially, is that Dota? Dota, yeah. But I'm not a big fan of video games. So there's this movie, I forgot the name of the movie. John Travolta in it. It's about they go to this Paris. So he's a bodyguard for this guy who's a chess player, amateur chess player. And then there's a conversation, basically says like, he talks about, oh, so you're the chess player, so right. So when they meet for the first time, so oh, you're the chess player. So then that guy says, oh, so do you also play? So do I look like a guy who plays board games or something? So John Travolta is supposed to be this tough guy in the movie. Yeah. So he says, basically makes fun of people who play chess. But I think chess is a very strategic game in itself, and it kind of, you can learn a lot about life. Yeah, I think you can draw lessons from
draw a lot of parallels between chess and life, definitely. Strategy, you know.
So when did you get into chess? Like how did you? Let's talk about the time you got interested in chess.
The first time I played chess was when I was in 9th grade, I think. I had a couple of classmates who were really good at it, and they were playing, and I got kind of interested. But I played for a couple of months, and then I gave up. And with that, I picked it up again a couple of years ago, I think. And then I got really into it. I started playing in chess.com. I started watching following the news, watching the tournaments and stuff. And for those of you watching, I'm not really good at it. I think my chess.com rating is like 1400.
It's still great. It's they say if you're 1400 on chess.com, so you're probably like better than 80% of the chess.com users.
Yeah, but but the other 20% is still really, millions of people.
I got into chess. It's funny enough, like my grandmother was really, I think she really loved this game, because I remember I had this vague memories of, from my childhood. I used to visit her, and then she would always want me to get into this game. Like she was the only person. I think she was the first person to teach me how the pieces move. But I never got into it until I was in the States. I found myself, 17-year-old guy with a language problem and struggling to make friends. And then the chess club was the only club that would welcome an exchange student, I think, in a way, because you would just sit there quietly without engaging in a conversation, because you have to, when you play, you have to kind of,
focus.
You have to focus, and then you're not allowed to speak.
Yeah.
So that was my, what is that expression again? This, so to speak, my sacred place, my heaven.
Safe haven.
Safe haven, safe haven, right? So they say haven for some reason. So I would, I joined this chess club because I was trying to make friends. And then before I realized, I got into it, I got hooked to the game. So that was back in 2005, and I was 17. So that's when I started really, focusing. At that time, I wasn't really following the game of chess. I wasn't really following. I think chess wasn't that big, to be honest. Like back in those days, 2005, I think Rustam Kasimjanov was the world champion.
Yeah.
And it was a controversial thing. Yeah, it's a controversial thing. So I wasn't really following the chess games. I started following chess back in 2013 when Magnus Carlsen started running for the championship. So his first matchup against Vishy Anand. That's my first official tournament that I watched.
Let me kind of flip the script here.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can clearly see that chess has become more popular with Magnus Carlsen.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah. Do you see yourself as like Magnus Carlsen of IELTS maybe in Uzbekistan?
That's a tough question. It's not a tough question, but I really don't want to talk about these things. Maybe, you know, I have said that, like, I'm happy to have inspired so many the younger generation of IELTS instructors in a way.
Yeah.
So maybe you can say that, but I wouldn't really say, you know.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But yeah.
Like, it's again a line from an Eminem song. What is that line? Like, from No Love, if you remember, like, you're so good that you can't really say it because you sound cocky.
Yeah, kind of. But you know, on the flip side, you have in Uzbek you have the saying, "Too much humility is arrogance." Right?
Yeah. Oh. No. I'm not really saying. I wouldn't really call it, because Magnus Carlsen is one of the.
Yeah.
You know, he's the.
Of course, yeah.
Who would you have? Like, who would you say the greatest, like the GOAT, chess GOAT?
It's difficult. Like, I'm not really qualified to answer that question, but
yeah.
I really like.
But you're entitled to your own opinion.
Yes, yeah. But I really like how Kasparov answered it in when he was in Lex Fridman podcast. He said there are two ways to look at it, right? Mm-hmm. One is, like, if you look at the generations, the new generation is always going to be better than the previous generation. Yeah. So how are you gonna say, like, is Magnus Carlsen better than Fischer? Or what you can do is you can look at the difference between that person at the top and the others, right? And if you look at that, he says then Fischer is definitely number one because he was way ahead of everyone in his time. And then he said, but Fischer was only like world champion for a year, but
he refused to play.
Yeah, Kasparov was a world champion for
like over 20 years.
Over 20 years, but the difference between him and others was very small.
So Karpov was really breathing down his neck.
Yes. Yeah. So those are the two ways. But now, if you look at Magnus Carlsen, for example, he's definitely
he's ahead of the pack.
And
he's been
the world champion,
like, not just world champion, but
at the top, yeah.
At the top.
Even right now, he's not the classic world champion right now, but like most people don't even know it, right?
Right. They don't really. Yeah. Championship, like the crown, chess crown without Magnus Carlsen isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, most people don't even know Ding Liren, right? Who is the current reigning world champion. Right. Everyone is still talking about Magnus Carlsen, right? Yeah. I think from that perspective and the impact he has had on, like, reigniting passion for the sport and revitalizing the community of chess. Yeah. I think that's huge. I think, like, in the future, like, when you look back, like 30 years, 40 years from now, and you look back, you'll definitely look and say, yeah, Magnus Carlsen was the best.
Yeah, the best. I think one of the games that I was already a chess player back then when I was watching this championship match against Anand, and it was the game 9 for me, you know, kind of that made me become a huge chess fan. Not just chess fan, like, in terms of a player, but being, you know, someone who follows the games. Now that I've been following chess, I always say, if there's a classical chess game against, you know, Magnus, and if it's an intense or decisive game and then you have Champions League final, I always pick chess over the football. I'm a huge football fan, but don't take me wrong. Like, chess, it may look boring, you know, on the surface, but it's really intense. It gets really intense.
I think in philosophy they divide pleasure into two kinds. One is like a lower pleasure. Second is higher pleasure. A lower pleasure is something that anyone can enjoy, like good food, you know, something physical,
Sure.
stuff. And higher pleasure is something that you need to be familiar with. You need to have a background. You need to have knowledge. Then you start enjoying it. I think chess is one of those. Like anyone can watch football, and most people, because everyone understands football. Soccer, just to be clear.
We're not talking about American football.
So when you're watching football, like most people understand it. The rules are simple. You can still watch and enjoy, right? I'm not a big
football fan, but you know the rules.
Yes, I watch it. Sometimes my friends watch it. I join them. I enjoy it. Okay. But for chess, you need to play at least, like, if you want to watch Magnus games and enjoy, you need to play like 3 months at least.
Yeah, you need to have some background, and then we have now chess engines to help us understand the in-depth, this thoughts behind every move that they play.
And it's so the way they play, and the reason most people don't understand how good you have to be Magnus, right? Like I was just telling you earlier, right? Like yesterday I was watching this game, and the accuracy level, right? Magnus is winning because his opponent's accuracy is
90.3, right?
Yeah, 98.3.
Yeah.
Out of 100. And then Magnus is winning because he has 98.6 accuracy.
Oh, okay. So
that's crazy. That's just crazy. 0.3% difference in accuracy.
Right.
That's how you win at the highest level.
Right. Yeah. So like, you have to understand at a grandmaster level, but we're talking about super grandmaster level, like top 10. Glasvick is not top 10 yet, but he's gonna be at some point. So these guys, when they play, it's even at an international master level, like they don't make mistakes. They don't make stupid blunders.
Yeah. They make small inaccuracies.
Very small inaccuracies, and then as a good chess player, you have to really turn those.
Take advantage of those.
Convert them into a win. And that's what I love about chess. You gotta be patient. You gotta wait for your turn. There are waiting moves, right? You even have waiting moves in chess. Like that your position is perfect. Your pieces are on the right place, right squares, but you just make a waiting move. That means like you're waiting until your opponent makes a mistake. And then as soon as he does, your whole goal motivation is to
jump at that.
Right. And then you have to build on that and then start attacking that weakness.
I think that's one life philosophy that you can draw from chess is when you see an opportunity, when you have an opportunity, you need to take full advantage of that.
And act quickly.
Act quickly and decisively.
Because
otherwise
you have one move.
Yes. And it goes back to Eminem. One shot, one opportunity.
Exactly.
Right?
So you have one move, you have one opportunity, because usually, again, at the top, like when we're talking about these grandmasters, they make a mistake, but as soon as they make the move, they see it.
Yes.
And that's what I really loved about this championship match from 2013. So if you've never, if you're into chess, if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Now I remember, like you could see it in Anand's face. He showed it.
He showed it. It's like, because he didn't have a poker face when you're playing, but Magnus saw it, and not because Anand showed it, but he saw the move. Because Magnus made this move very quickly. That was like queen to I think Magnus was playing. I think he was playing with black pieces in that game, and so he had promoted his pawn to a queen. So now he has 2 queens. And if I'm not mistaken, he should have and then he promotes the pawn with a check, and Anand should have blocked with his, I think, bishop. but he blocks it with a knight. And then as soon as he does, then you have this queen to e8 move or something, because the knight is no longer blocking the way, right? So he can infiltrate into this file. So I don't really remember the exact precise
I also don't remember the moves.
But I've watched this game with so much excitement, and then you can see from Anand's face, like as soon as he drops his bishop back, I think, knight back, he realizes that he made that mistake, huge mistake. And it's a big blow, because if that up until that point, they had drawn 8 games.
Yeah.
And the longer, Anand draws those games, the longer because Magnus was the better player, even though Anand was, because Vishy Anand was past his prime already back then.
Yeah.
If his whole point was to draw all the classical the games and then going into the rapid or blitz section, so he might have some chance. Magnus, it's like he just needed that one win to gain his confidence, I think.
Yes.
So that game was decisive.
Yeah. And then, that phase. And that also reminds me of that famous game. I can't remember the game itself, but there's this, I think Kasparov blunders his rook. And it's like he gives it away, right?
Yeah, I remember that. I haven't watched never watched that live, but it was the YouTube videos, like you can look it up. Kasparov is also known. In English, they say Kasparov. So let's just for the sake of like because we're from a similar part of the region, we say Kasparov. But Kasparov. As Americans say. Kasparov is also known as one of the GOATs. I think, in fact, I still put Kasparov at the top.
For now.
For me, Kasparov is still the GOAT because he made a lot of... he made an impact on the game. And in chess, that's what I really like about chess. Like, the modern players, these current players, their whole knowledge of chess is built upon the knowledge from the past, from the game, the database, right?
Yeah, and
so in a way, they kind of owe their success to these past players, like
and also
Capablanca and Aljohin, right? So all these Spassky, Botvinnik, these are the top. These are the players who are really underrated. When we're talking about GOATs, we're talking about Magnus and Kasparov and Karpov maybe, but
and also Fischer, like that brings me to another point. The thing that kind of fascinates me about Fischer is he was 2800 back then, with no machine health, with nothing.
Exactly.
Even now, how many 2800s do we have? Two.
Barely, because the second guy is like always going back and forth.
Yeah, and that is just crazy. In 72, was it?
Yeah, 17-2, yeah. 72.
72?
Yeah.
He was 2800, and that's just crazy without machine health. Even right now, I think Magnus maybe has a talent to reach that level without computers, but others?
Yeah. They get so much help from chess engines. This is like, right now we have this for ChatGPT AI, right? Like, it's another thing that we can talk about in relation to IELTS, because it's a language model, And they had these chess players had their own ChatGPT from a long time ago, right? Like from maybe 10 years back. Well, when did they start? Like 1996, right? That's when Kasparov again beat.
And also there's
Deep
this
Blue.
There's this famous story in Uzbekistan, like when Kasimjanov was playing the world championship, and then the president asked him, like, what do you need? And he said, computer. I need a computer, right?
Wow, yeah.
There is this story.
I never heard that story.
Like they used to tell when we were young, they used to tell that story all the time, because without it, you can't really improve. You can't really beat.
So even back then, so there
Was it 2006?
Yeah, there must have been some form of engine, the chess engine. Maybe not as strong as the current engines, but right.
Yes.
Helpful enough, right?
Helpful enough, yes.
To learn your openings and stuff. Yeah. Chess is nowadays that's why Fisher, in one of the videos, he says like he hates chess because it's like very predictable. The game got really predictable because you learn openings, different openings, and you prepare.
And chess is there's this saying, chess is being solved. I think chess is kind of solved now for 8 pieces. If you have 8 pieces on the board,
so the last 7 or 8 pieces.
Yes. Yeah. If you have 8 pieces on the board, whatever those pieces are, wherever they are, it's solved. You have like
a computer.
Yeah, computer knows.
To finish the game. Yeah.
Yes, everything. And I think it's just a matter of time when it's until
it becomes
completely
64. 32.
32 pieces. So it's. I think,
And then for that, we have this Fisher random.
Yes.
Right? Fisher random 996 is 960.
Yeah.
Is that what is it? Is that the
pieces
number of variations you can...
Yeah, the pieces are not in the original square, so they can't be randomly anywhere.
And there are like 960 variations probably then.
Probably, yes.
Yeah.
So...
Wow, yeah, chess is deep. Chess is philosophical. And... because I'm a huge fan of chess, I always try to make analogies, like draw parallels between chess and life, and not just life, but decisions as well. I'm going to first tell a story how chess can be applied to life, because at one point, a friend of mine invited me to his wedding, and I was thinking about my, words if I'm invited. Like it's you're making a toast, but you don't really, in Uzbek weddings, you don't really make a toast, but you make a speech.
Yeah.
Because he's a course mate, my classmate from university. So because we used to play a lot of chess, I wanted to make that speech about how you should hold on to your queen, because queen is the most valuable piece on the board, right next to king. But like you lose your queen, you lose the game 90% of the time, right? So that's what I was gonna say, but I never made to the wedding. It was in Sirdaryo, so I could never make it. But that's the wedding, or the speech that I never got to use. So if you guys are, if you ever want to use this the speech.
But in Uzbek, it wouldn't work because we don't call it the queen, right? In Uzbek,
what do we call
the queen? What is it called? Farzan.
Farzan, yeah.
Is it
no. Yeah, but I would probably say it in English. In English, yeah. And I would translate. But queen is Now, but that's a life analogy. You can also make analogies between chess and business worlds, and especially when you're running a company where you have to put your pieces again on the right squares to be able to take advantage of their full power, so to speak, right? So for example, bishops thrive in open diagonals, and you got to make sure that your bishop's placed in these diagonals, open diagonals, and knights thrive in closed positions. Your queen and rooks, they thrive when they're together. Like, I think the terminology is battery, right?
Yes.
You have the battery. That means like back to back, or on the 7th rank. I think when you put your rooks on the 7th rank together, it's like they're supporting each other in an open file. That's when they're the strongest. So my take on chess is that just like chess, you have to be able to put your maybe personnel in the right places, right? At work, when when you're running business, that's how you get the full potential out of them, so to speak. But again, I'm talking about human resources here. Like I'm not here to say you're taking advantage of these people, but making sure that they thrive.
Making sure that they're in the right position.
They're in the right position. Yeah. That's all I'm trying to say. Yeah. And chess is one of those, again, games that kind of makes you think about these things, right? In a way.
In a way, yes.
In a way. So you're not really comfortable with this. So what do you have in mind?
I think there are certain analogies that you can draw, parallels between chess and life, but there are also it doesn't really, in my opinion, encompass all the complexities of life. Like, for example, the simplest thing is, like, for example, just using the analogies that you gave. Let's say you want to put all of your employees in the right position, but the thing is, in chess, you know what each piece is good at, right? Like, in HR,
their value.
In HR, you may not really know.
But if you're a good HR manager, then you should.
Okay. Maybe.
You have to spend time. I think you have to spend quality time with
them
these
and
people to get to know them better. And again, I'm not when you make that analogy about people, it just sounds disrespectful, maybe, you know, because you're using them, because you're using your pieces. But I'm really talking about working together. I'm talking about collaborating, working together, giving them the right projects, so to speak.
Another objection that I have to this is okay.
Fire the way.
Another objection I have to this is, in life, first of all, you don't only have one opponent, you may have multiple opponents at the same time. Okay.
So you're not playing against one player.
And even if you are, that player isn't gonna make one move and wait for you to make your move.
Okay, so, life isn't fair, right?
Life isn't fair. Life is much more complex, right? And life isn't 64 squares.
Life has infinite number of squares.
So in that way, kind of chess may fall a bit short of.
It definitely does. But chess is the closest thing to life. Maybe what about the game you play? Let's talk about Dota.
Dota is good. I can draw some good analogies, but I guess most people wouldn't understand it because most people don't play it.
Let's talk about the thing that you mentioned about
like for example, one important thing in Dota, for example, is to know what your position is. By position, it's a Dota jargon. It means like, what's your role? What are you supposed to do? And if one person in a team of 5, if one person breaks their role, if they don't do it, if they don't want to do it, then you're not going to win. Right? And you need to be...
So it's a team game, right?
It's a team game. And in certain situations, you need to be comfortable putting yourself in the back seat. Like, for example, 2 probably most important roles are carry in Dota, which is the most important role, and also support, which looks like the least important role, but also the most important role, you know? Like the role of a support is, like, you know, as the word suggests, to support the carry. And if I am a support, if I'm playing a support character, right? And if I suddenly decide, no, I'm the carry, right? It's not gonna work. I'm gonna lose.
So the whole team.
The whole team is gonna lose. So that's like, in life, you may find yourself in different situations. Like, for example, I play support almost all the time.
Wow.
And
so that kind of fits in with your personality.
Kind of, yeah.
Because you don't want to be in a public eye. Now we're kind of coming back to the initial point of the conversation.
Yeah.
That go ahead and finish your point, and then I'm gonna.
Like carry is the one who gets all the glory.
Okay.
Like, it's like support is the way I can explain easiest is support is like a goalkeeper in football.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
goalkeepers never get the glory.
They say, yeah, you never get like. I think the only goalkeeper in the world that won the best player award was the Lev Yashin from Soviet Union.
Yeah.
But then you never get these goalkeepers as.
But they say goalkeeper is 50% of
half
the team.
Half
of the team.
Yeah.
But they never get the glory. They are never celebrated.
They never get the recognition.
Right. But you need to be okay with that.
As a support.
As a support.
Right.
Right. You need to find your role in life. And you need to, and this brings us to that, and it doesn't mean that you're no one and you don't matter. Like, this brings us to the old conversation we had about samurai, if you remember. Like, samurai are also support.
They support who?
They supported their lords.
Okay.
They were called lords, feudal lords in Japan. They would have samurai. Now when we talk about samurai, we talk about these great men who
sacrificed themselves, right?
Who were disciplined, who knew everything. And
Japanese culture is deep, man.
Yeah. We glorify now samurai, but if you think about it, samurai were support. They were not the main character. They were never the main character.
Wow.
But they played a huge role. They probably played a bigger role in Japanese history than their lords ever did.
Right. I remember watching this movie, Last Samurai, with Tom Cruise in it. It still brings me to tears. Like every time I watch this movie, I get very emotional.
Yeah, one of the best movies in history is the Seven Samurai, the really old movie.
Wow, okay.
And there are Hollywood adaptations.
So it's a Japanese movie then?
It's a Japan, really old, in 50s. And in 70s they had a Hollywood adaptation. They called them Seven... I forget.
We can look it up.
And there is also another newer adaptation with Denzel Washington.
Wow, Denzel,
and Chris Pratt. Seven. I think.
So you're really into this Japanese culture?
A little bit,
samurai.
I kind of admire the samurai because they were strong, disciplined men who achieved, most of them who achieved greatness despite the fact that most of them lived in very turbulent, very unstable times. Wars and so many different problems, and they were able to achieve greatness, and that's kind of inspiring if you think about it. So and all of them, at least my point of view is, maybe some people will disagree, all of them were support. They were never number one character.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't really know much, but going back to your point about being a support and being okay with it, and basically being a second, right? So in a way, and then earlier I called you my second in IELTS because I achieved this, this band 9 after we worked on these online marathons, writing marathons, and I used to write this essays, and what your impact, your contribution was that you were the guy who were giving me feedback and harsh feedback, at times criticizing my writing, and it really pushed me to write better. It really pushed me to come up with better ideas, maybe putting them in the right order, so to speak. So and then a lot of these marathon participants, they because we were doing it live, and they kind of witnessed the conversations that we had, the exchange, right? And they knew you from your voice probably, but they'd never seen the face.
Yeah.
So probably that's today is the first time they're seeing
probably
your face.
So I've met some of them, and they are like, I thought you were like much older, because of the way that I was kind of, talking back to you.
So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And as a guy, when you're working with a second, you have to understand that you have to be okay with the criticism, and then with the talk back thing. Yes, but yeah, it wasn't impolite or anything. It was just that you were brave enough to point out certain mistakes, and I had to be cool with it. In a way, and that's how you grow, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
That's how you grow.
Constructive criticism is important. Like there are, I think now there are two types of philosophies. Like one is like you can listen to criticisms, but the dominant philosophy of life right now is don't care about what people say.
Right.
Yeah. And I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, a lot of times, what people say is true. So you need to be able to filter the maybe hateful, unnecessary types of criticisms out, and then keep the real, true, constructive criticism, and then work on yourself. But if you just say, anyone who criticizes me, anything they say is wrong, then
if you keep blocking it out,
you're not going to
grow.
improve. I think that's one of the, I don't want to criticize the whole generation now, but it's one of the problems with Gen Z, younger generation right now, is like they don't care what people say. They don't care when you criticize them. They view all of it, like as a teacher, I see it very often when I criticize my students, you're doing this wrong, right? They take it as an insult, as a way, as if I'm their enemy. Sometimes it happens, sometimes I get depressed, and I'm saying, no, it's one of my roles as a teacher to point out your mistakes. If I don't, then how are you going to improve, right?
Sure.
So I think one of the most important skills that you can have is whenever you receive criticism, like categorize it into just criticism.
Right.
Criticism for the sake of criticism,
pure hatred
kind of thing, and constructive criticism.
Exactly.
Right? Like if you can divide, okay, don't pay attention to this part, but pay attention to this part, right?
Yeah. Again, this applies to the work environment as well.
Yes.
When you're running a business again, or when you're just collaborating with people on different projects, it's important to channel your criticism in the most appropriate way.
Yes.
If you do it in public, you're basically shaming the guy, naming and shaming, then they don't really take it well.
Yes.
Because they get embarrassed, and then they get into this defensive mode. They start defending their positions. But when you do it face to face,
they're more likely to accept it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but in the classroom, it's harder, like, because you have to correct their mistakes right at the right in the moment of
close to, like,
So as soon as they're done, so you have to do it in front of the class. So and how do you deal with that? How when they don't really take it well, like your criticism or correction?
I usually try to explain to them that this is a part of life. It's not exclusive to the classroom.
Right.
You're gonna go to university. You
get corrected all the time.
You get corrected all the time. And unlike us, university professors, they don't care.
Right.
They really don't care. Right. And then you get a job, and you have a boss who may actually care less.
Right.
Some bosses, some people, they think like, I'm paying you, whatever. I have the right to say whatever I want. And like you may find yourself in those situations.
Yeah.
And if you're not okay with kind of receiving criticism,
right. When you're correcting their mistake, I think it's not the same as criticism, but because there are different ways of correcting a mistake. Like you can repeat the word or the grammar structure that they just said, and then usually they kind of understand. It kind of makes sense that okay, so I made a mistake with this word. I was saying I did my CELTA recently after that 9, and one of the things that I learned from this program is that when you're correcting students' mistakes, it's better to keep it like anonymous. You just take note of the common mistakes for your students, and then you just put them on the board and say, well, these are the common mistakes that I noticed, and that's one way of correcting a mistake without really offending your students. Maybe if they made a serious mistake, right? But when you have to correct them right away, there are moments like sometimes some mistakes you have to correct immediately, some mistakes can wait. But when you said criticism, I assume that maybe you're criticizing their behavior, the way
that happens too.
The way they basically engage with the class or with their classmates, with the materials.
The way they approach homework. Or
earlier when we were in the car, you did mention that the current generation isn't really putting in the hours. They take these things for granted, right? Like they take hard work for granted.
Kind of. Maybe I am. My opinions are too subjective on this, but I feel like because I compare them to when I was their age, and not just me, but my friends around me when I was studying at the Lyceum, for example. I was the laziest in our group.
Right.
And even I worked hard. Like, even though I was the laziest.
You were pushed.
My friends were working like 24/7. And I don't see that level of work ethic with current generation of students, and I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it's like it has something to do with parents, because parents kind of pamper them too much. Maybe
parents have become more protective, I think, of their children.
And also technology is making everything easier, so they're used to getting everything in an easy way, so they don't really feel like they need to work hard anymore. And it kind of sometimes I try to explain it in the classroom. After the class, I usually give like 5-minute lectures on the importance of hard work and discipline. But sometimes it just frustrates me too much, because sometimes I have a group of students, let's say, have 15 students
talking back,
and also you have 15 students, none of whom are doing the homework, right? Like if you have like, let's say, 5 hardworking students and then 10 of them are not really hardworking, you can kind of
show them as an example.
Or you can also console yourself a little bit by saying, at least these people
5 are following my advice.
But when you have like 15 students,
well, I hope it doesn't happen all the time or every single group, right? So you must be talking about one group of really lazy students here.
Maybe. But it happens. But my point is, even looking at it from a broader perspective, and it's not just me. We talk to other instructors who are working together, and I usually ask them, do you guys also have this kind of students? And say, I think from a broader perspective, I think there are far fewer students, far fewer youngsters who really work hard. There are still some, but the percentage, I would say, in our generation, anyone who wanted to succeed,
they had to work hard.
had to work hard. They knew that they had to work hard. But now we have this generation of students who have this delusion, maybe, that they can achieve success without working hard.
I think it has something to do with the current, again, technology and how you raise to the top, like how fast you can get fame now, right? How fast you can get famous by just doing one video, like on YouTube. Like you can make your own video now. You can be a content creator and you can just become famous, a celebrity overnight, so to speak. So these things come easier now. But as they say, easy come, easy go. So I kind of, think that these things, when these things happen so easily, it's likely to collapse at some point.
And as you know, I'm a kind of a philosophical type. So I usually, after the class, I sit and think about the broader societal kind of implications of this many...
Some big words for IELTS Writing Task 2 and Part 3 speaking. Broader societal implications.
Broader societal implications of such a large percentage of youngsters not being hard workers or not even considering hard work as a path to success, right? And then it's not even a question of if, it's a question of when they get to the top,
what happens
when they are running
the
things,
country,
what will happen. And that kind of scares me a little bit.
Maybe we're old-fashioned in that respect. Maybe we're not really seeing life from their angle or perspective. Maybe they are right. Maybe the things that they're doing. Because I remember being criticized by my parents. Basically, I think there's always this generational gap thing, right? Even I think... there's a famous quote. Maybe it doesn't really belong to this famous philosopher from history.
Aristotle?
No,
Socrates?
the other guy, Socrates. Yeah, he says something like this. Do you remember the quote?
Young generation, all they care about is partying and stuff.
He said that. What century was he living?
3,000 years ago. That's
so. It's always a thing, I guess.
It's always a thing, but. Here is the difference, when I was younger, when my parents said, hey, you're not working hard, you need to work hard, or when my teacher said, you need to work hard, we accepted that.
Maybe, just maybe, consider this, maybe we worked hard but not smart. Maybe. Because maybe the younger generation, they know how to work smart. Maybe they know how to get things done.
I don't think that negates the importance of working hard.
Okay. Hey, this is where you and I'm not really arguing against it, but I'm trying to understand the other side of the story, other side of the argument. Maybe those who are watching us, if you're Gen Z, I'm trying to be on your side.
We have colleagues who are from Gen Z, right? Like I work with people. It's not just my students. Some of the, for example, Sardar could be a great example. Sardar Kamilov, most people know.
Is he a Gen Z?
He is a Gen Z.
What is the Gen Z like?
Gen Z is
period. Like it starts with
98, 2000 plus, I think.
Okay.
If you're born like millennials.
They ended
96,
95, 96. Okay.
So Sardar is definitely like beginning of Gen Z, and like he is smart. He works smart. He works hard. He has a work ethic, and he has everything. And I admire him, even though he's like way younger than me. So, and when you compare someone like him, who's smart and hardworking, to some of the other people who are neither of those things, then it's kind of a...
I think it's just a question of like individuality.
Here is the thing. I think that in previous generations, a larger percentage of the population were in the middle. You were kind of a little bit hardworking, a little bit smart. You know, you had this in statistics they call like normal distribution. You have this thing,
the curve.
Right? And then most people are in the middle. This here,
Right?
And now most people, I feel like more and more people are in the extremes where you have younger people who are getting 8.5, 9 at the age of like 15, 16, right?
Yeah.
You look at them and say, wow, like,
right.
We would have never been able to achieve that. But you also have this other extreme where you have lazy, I don't want to kind of criticize them too much, but lacking intellect, lazy people, like they don't want to use their brains. Like you have a larger percentage of the people on this side also. So you have more people on both extremes. And,
that kind of makes sense. That kind of makes sense. It's the same as making money, I think. Nowadays, more and more youngsters are making a lot of money. They're becoming more successful at a very young age. And that's one of the reasons why this younger generation is like, they're rushing. They're always
rushing. I think we can go back to that No Love. Where Lil Wayne says, I'm following the script, you guys are skipping scenes.
Oh, okay,
right?
That's one of my favorite lines, but that's what he made. You're saying?
That's exactly what he means. He says, I've paid my due, I've worked hard for years.
And then so you guys are skipping scenes in a way because of me, maybe because of my generation, because we kind of we paved the way, right?
Like, whatever the reason is, there used to be a progression for success. You needed to work hard.
You have to take certain steps, right?
To get it. But some younger people are just skipping those steps now.
Wow.
And
so maybe by working smart.
Maybe by working smart, maybe for other reasons, maybe, you know, but whatever the reasons behind that trend is, I don't view it as
a positive
thing. I think there is a certain kind of level of satisfaction, certain degree of satisfaction that you get when you really work hard and achieve something.
Yeah.
And you can see this in any facet of life, any aspect of life. Like you can take, for example, relationships as an example, right? Now it's like dating culture, right? Like you just date. You have like not in Uzbekistan. Even in Uzbekistan, it's becoming popular. In European countries, you have like Tinder and stuff like that, and you click one thing and then you're dating. There used to be a certain level of nuance to dating. Kind of you like a girl,
and it takes you take your time. It takes time
to develop, and those relationships used to be much stronger. That's why
they lasted longer. That's why that's part of the reason. I wouldn't say it's the only reason. That's part of the reason that previous generations, our parents, like for example, have longer marriages, lasting marriages, right? All of these are all connected, and with effort that you put in, right?
Effort you put into this, and if you don't put in the effort, it's
you're likely to let him go easily.
Let it go, and again, like you said, easy come, easy go. So I think it's still, even if you can achieve it, it's still a little bit of, if you put your sweat and blood into it, as they say, that it's gonna taste much better, I think.
Right. Okay. So I have this tradition to toward the end of the podcast, I usually ask these rapid fire questions. Okay. So we're getting to that stage, but before we do, I just want to summarize that we, I think, touched on many different subjects today, unlike the rest of the podcasts, the episodes, the previous episodes. We talked about, we start talking about maybe Eminem, right? And then
Eminem,
TV shows, chess. And there's so many other things that we can talk about. Like I could have talked about, I'm not really sure if you're into mathematics.
I'm not really good at it, but I'm into it.
Yeah,
definitely.
You're also into statistics, right? Economics.
Yes.
We could have talked about that maybe. We did talk about business, maybe, but we could have gone into it a bit deeper maybe. So what I'm trying to say is it's not just IELTS that I care about. It's not just, even some people now making this assumption that my life revolves around IELTS. It's not true. I have a family. I have kids. I have another life. I have basically... Yes, I take IELTS seriously. I used to take IELTS seriously. But that's what you have to do with your career.
Yes, exactly.
If you want to make it to the top, you do have to take it seriously. But that doesn't mean you're obsessed with it, and it's not the only thing you talk about.
Yeah.
Chess is something that I always talk about.
Yes.
Eminem is something. Movie. We never got like Shawshank Redemption. When you brought up Shawshank Redemption, I want to talk about it. I wanted to talk about that, but that one scene, that particular scene that this Morgan Freeman, his character comes back to the panel, right?
Yeah.
For his
I don't
redemption.
care.
Yeah, the last finally he says he doesn't care, and that's when he gets approved. Yeah, it's a beautiful movie. We could have talked about movies.
It's the only movies that made me cry.
Really?
Yes.
No, there are lots of movies that I cried, I think. Would you say that's your all-time favorite?
Shawshank, definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know that I'm a huge Marvel fan. But
that's another thing that...
Yeah, but I put Shawshank Redemption over
any Marvel movie. Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. Coming from me, it's huge, yes.
It is huge coming from you. Any movie is better than Marvel movies for me, but yeah.
You have no taste in movies.
No. Listen, we can put together a list of our all-time favorite movies. I'm sure my list beats your list any time of the day, man. All day, every day.
Come on.
My top movie is one of the movies that I...
Pulp Fiction?
Pulp Fiction, exactly.
I love Pulp Fiction.
Really?
But it's not...
We could have talked about Pulp Fiction this whole podcast.
But it's not the top. I after my third viewing of it, I didn't feel the need to go back to it,
Wow, the dialogues are so beautiful. I think you need to have a person, you need to have a partner to talk about Pulp Fiction, and then you would probably have a reason to go back to the movie.
Yeah.
And different scenes, maybe.
Yeah.
Different dialogues.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Hey, listen. Pulp Fiction. We're going to do another episode
we could have
just on Pulp Fiction, and we can invite Oybek because he's the biggest fan of Pulp Fiction, I think. So we're going to do the last round. That's a rapid fire round that has become a tradition for me to, end the podcast with these quick questions. You have to answer them off the top of your head. Let's go with the first set. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Early bird or a night owl?
Definitely night owl.
Books or movies?
That's tough, but I'm going to go with movies.
Yeah, okay. All right. Fair enough. In terms of IELTS, speaking or writing?
Definitely writing.
Summer or winter?
Winter.
Wow. Okay. City life or countryside?
City life now, countryside later in life, during retirement maybe.
All right. What is your favorite word in English?
Favorite collocation, maybe phrase, is mutually exclusive, because when I learned it, I didn't know how to say it in Uzbek.
But how would you explain that to a student?
If I had a student, if I'm explaining to a group of students, I would probably say that if two things, A and B, are mutually exclusive, that means that you cannot have both of them together. If you have A, you cannot have B. If you have B, you cannot have A.
Right. So you can use a context as well, right?
Yeah, you can use a context. Like earlier we were saying, right? We're talking about being smart, working smart and working hard. And I don't necessarily think that working smart and working hard are mutually exclusive. You can do both.
Right. So it's mostly used in negative, like form.
Yes.
They're not mutually exclusive, meaning they can coexist.
Coexist together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would that be?
Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor. He wrote one of my favorite books, Meditations. Most people don't know this. I practice the philosophy of Stoicism, and Meditations is the #1 book in that philosophy. So, yeah, that's I would want to talk to him about life and how to overcome struggles, and how to remain a virtuous person despite all the struggles.
All right. If you could instantly learn any language, which would that be?
English.
Again, you would just relearn it just for the sake of...
Other than English. So you need to specify.
Other than English, yeah, of course, because Japanese. You know English.
Japanese,
okay. If you could have any superpower for a day, what would that be?
For a day, teleportation.
Teleportation, okay. Okay, yeah. Personal taste. What is the last book you read or the last movie you watched and loved? Loved is hard. The last book I read, in fact, I'm still reading it. Is called Noise by Daniel Kahneman. It's about basically decision making and how our decisions are distorted by irrelevant information. And the movies that I watched and enjoyed it's been quite a while. Because that's okay.
Yeah.
The next question is easy. What genre of music do you listen to when you're working?
Hip hop, rap.
Probably hip hop, yeah. What is your go-to comfort food?
Chips and Coke.
Yeah, okay. All right. Can you describe your teaching style in 3 words?
I would probably say lecture. One word, just lecture.
Lecture,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I teach more. I try to be more interactive, but my teaching style is more like a lecture style. Yeah.
Okay. What is something that can always make you smile?
Always make me smile. There is no such thing.
Okay, maybe some sort of a cartoon or something?
No.
A joke?
No.
A movie? A line from Big Bang Theory?
Always no.
Okay.
There is nothing.
What's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Be disciplined.
All right. Yeah, that concludes our rapid fire round. Thank you. Xo'p, boshlanishni o'zbekcha boshlagandik, tugatishni ham yakunlashni ham o'zbekcha qilamiz. Uzr so'rayman agar auditoriya o'zbek tilida ko'rmoqchi bo'lgan bo'lsalaring. Afsuski biz o'sha kirishib ketganimizda va odatda inglizcha gaplashganimiz uchun ingliz tilida bo'lib ketdi. O'z planda yo'q edi bunaqa narsa. Eldor, kelganingiz uchun rahmat, tashrif buyurganingiz uchun. Juda ham qiziqarli, mazmunli suhbat bo'ldi. Keyingi mehmonimizga hozircha nomlari sir bo'lib turadi. Bizda yana bitta traditsiyani Aslbek Yusupov hali kiritib ketgandi. Davudxon shu narsani baligi qilibdi, break qilibdi. Demak, sizda yana qaytadan revive qilamiz. Menga keyin bitta o'sha keyingi mehmon uchun o'zingizni bir savolingizni yozib qoldirasiz. O'sha mehmondan kelganda, demak, sizni savolingiz bilan boshlaymiz podkast. Qanaqa bo'ladi? Bu misol uchun sal o'sha qiyinroq, qanaqadir bir matsa bo'ladi. Javob berishga qiyin bo'lgan savol bo'lishi mumkin. So you have the question, hopefully.
Yes.
Ready?
Yeah.
You just put it in the, we're not going to do it on air, so we're just going to, you have to send me the question.
Yeah, I will.
All right, yeah. thank you again for showing up. Thank you for this wonderful conversation. It was very insightful. I've actually learned a lot about you and from you at the same time.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you.